Hello everybody, Shrouded Hand here. This is the fourth video I've done on this subject, but people seem to enjoy them, and each time I make one I get a lot of suggestions for other murderers who have appeared on TV, so it seems like there's a lot of source material out there. I thought I'd go through the comments on the last video and look at some more TV stars who have killed people. Gabriela M suggests Guilherme de Padua, a Brazilian actor who starred in a soap opera in the 90s called De Corpo e Alma. Guilherme played a character called Bira, who was in a relationship with Yasmin, played by Daniela Perez. On December 28, 1992, Guilherme de Padua and his wife Paula Thomas ambushed Daniela Perez outside a gas station and bundled her into the back of a car. They then drove her to a secluded location, stabbed her 18 times and dumped her body in some bushes. Forensic examiners say that she was stabbed with a double-edged dagger, but when questioned, Padua told them that the murder weapon was a pair of scissors, and his wife said that it was a screwdriver. Quite why they would admit to the murder but lie about the murder weapon is unclear, but there are rumours that black magic was involved in the slaying, so perhaps they wanted to conceal the fact that a ritualistic dagger had been used in the slaying. They both practiced a spirituality called Umbanda, an Afro-Brazilian religion that worships dead slaves. They had a statue of a slave called Pai Chico in their home, and they would invite people round to hold spiritualist type seances. I don't mean to paint Umbanda as some kind of satanic cult that practices human sacrifice. It's a fairly well established religion in Brazil, but the tabloids back then were quick to tie their spiritual practices to the crime. Earlier in the year there had been two quite high profile child killings that seemed ritualistic in nature. So perhaps this was Brazil's version of the satanic panic of the 80s, but the fact that Padua and Thomas attempted to conceal the dagger suggests that there was more to this crime than they were letting on. The exact motive for the killing is unclear. Daniela Perez was the daughter of the show's writer, and so she got a lot of screen time that Padua felt was undeserved. When writers decided to end their on-screen romance, he became resentful and begged him to give him more scenes in the show. It could be that he killed Daniela in an attempt to boost his own profile. Another theory is that he had begun to develop feelings for Daniela, becoming unable to distinguish the fictional relationship of the soap opera from reality. His wife became jealous, and so they both decided to kill her. During questioning, Padua changed his story many times. At one point he suggested that the actress had fallen in love with him and demanded that he leave his wife for her, although he denied this in later interviews. He was eventually jailed, but spent less than 7 years behind bars. He has since been released and has written a book about his crime. He's now become the pastor of a church and even has his own YouTube channel. And on a final note, while I was researching this crime, I found this show talking about the murder. I don't understand what I'm watching here. It's like it's a kid show with puppets, but they're talking about a brutal murder. It's very odd. I don't know what's up with Brazilian TV, but I thought I'd include that just because I thought it was bizarre. Sidiox754 suggested a couple of people from the Power Rangers franchise. They suggested one from an episode of Power Rangers in Space, but I couldn't find any information about this. I did find someone who appeared in the original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers show for one episode, who went on to kill 3 people. So maybe that's who they're thinking of, or maybe there's another case that I can't find any info about. Skylar Delian, born John Jacobson Jr., starred as an uncredited character called Roger in episode 55 of season 1 of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He was 14 at the time, and his acting career never really took off after that. He had difficulty memorising his lines and struggled to find work. Eventually he became poor, and this led to a life of crime and ultimately murder. A couple named Thomas and Jackie Hawkes were looking to sell their yacht, and Skylar approached them with his then wife Jennifer Henderson. They said they were interested in buying the boat, so Thomas and Jackie offered to take them out for a test drive. They headed out of Newport Harbor in California on the 15th of November 2004. When the boat returned, Thomas and Jackie were nowhere to be found. Skylar and his wife and 2 other accomplices had tied the couple bound and gagged to the boat's anchor and thrown them overboard. Skylar was found driving the couple's car a few days later and arrested. During the trial, he was also found guilty of the murder of another man called John Jarvie, and from jail he tried to arrange the murder of his own father and cousin, who were both witnesses in the man's murder. One strange detail in this case is that while he was awaiting sentence, he severed part of his penis with a razor blade whilst in his jail cell, and then tried to claim that he'd murdered the couple to raise money for a sex change operation. The other Power Rangers murderer was Ricardo Medina Jr. He played the Red Ranger in Power Rangers Wild Force. Then 10 years later he played a character called Decker in Power Rangers Samurai. On February 1st, 2015, he stabbed his roommate Joshua Sutter to death. The murder weapon was described as a Conan the Barbarian type sword that Ricardo kept on his bedroom wall. According to him, he and Sutter had got into an argument when Sutter started to get aggressive towards him and his girlfriend. Ricardo and his girlfriend retreated into the bathroom, taking the sword with them for protection. Sutter kicked in the door and advanced towards him, at which point Ricardo stabbed him in self-defense. There are some details that make the self-defense plea kind of suspicious. Forensics found that the body was stabbed over 10 times, suggesting a frenzied attack rather than a simple defense, and there were inconsistencies in the statements given by Ricardo and his girlfriend. As there were only 2 witnesses as to what happened that day, the truth will never fully be known. He's currently serving a 6-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter. Ainian J suggested Virpi Butte, who starred in the Finnish version of Gladiators. Her gladiator name was Timanti, and she appeared in the 1994 season. She was the youngest gladiator on the show. It's hard to find many details in English, so I'm relying on Google's auto-translate for a lot of this. I might get some of these details wrong, but I've translated them as best I can. Her crimes are pretty horrific, so it's surprising that she's currently out of prison. In 2002, Virpi and her business partner, Jan Huvanen, murdered a man in her apartment, then chopped up the body. They cut off his head, his fingertips, they sliced off his tattoos, then they cut off his legs at the knees. For some reason they then cooked one of his legs in the oven and ate some of it. Butte's 2-year-old child was asleep in the room the whole time this was happening. When they were finished, they placed the body parts in plastic bags and dropped them in various places around town. At one point, Virpi went into a bar with the man's head in a plastic bag and showed it to her friends, but they assumed it was a waxwork and she was playing a prank on them. The crime went unsolved, and a year later, at a party in her apartment, Butte stabbed another man to death, then once again dismembered the corpse and disposed of pieces in trash cans around the town. As there was a few people in the apartment at the time, there were multiple witnesses, and so Butte and their accomplice Huvanen were quickly arrested. They were both given a life sentence, but Butte only spent 15 years in jail, as her sentence was successfully appealed, despite psychologists saying that she was at a high risk of reoffending. I'm having a lot of trouble finding any clips of her on Gladiators. It seems that after the murders, people didn't want to upload any of the episodes with her in, so if anyone has any clips, let me know, but for now all I could find was this photograph. Thanks to everyone who suggested people for this video, and I had a load more suggestions, but I'm trying to keep this video short just because I'm having trouble with sleeping at the minute. I think it's all this virus stuff. I've had insomnia for about a week. My eyes just don't want to focus on the screen, so I'm considering taking a short break just to sort of get myself back into a proper sleeping pattern. If I go quiet for a few days, I'm still alive. It's just, I'm just chilling out. On the subject of current events, it seems that the lockdown's making everyone get their art materials out. I usually show some fan art at the end of these videos, but this week I've had so much sent to me that I'm going to have to show them in a separate video. So thanks to everyone who sent me artwork this week. I'm not forgetting you. I didn't expect this many people to send me stuff. It's going to get shown in a special video sometime in the next few days, so keep your eyes peeled for that. As always, I want to say huge thanks to all the Patreon and PayPal supporters. We live in uncertain times, so your generosity really means a lot at this point. And yeah, I just want to say again, thanks to everyone. It really means a lot. If you would also like to help support the channel, then there should be a link on screen now. Thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.